Are there any changes to the agenda as presented?
Thank you, Your Worship. Administration has no changes to the agenda at this time.
Thank you very much. Can I get a motion to accept the agenda as presented? Councillor Danlon.
Your Worship, thank you.
Discussion on the motion? All in favor? Carries. Thank you. Steve? Thank you. Carries unanimously. No. So we have three items on the consent agenda. Items 5A, 5B, and 5C. Regular council meeting minutes of March the 12th. Special council meeting minutes of March the 16th. Regular committee of the whole minutes of March 19th. I move the council consent to approve those agenda items without debate. Discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor? Steve? Sorry, Councillor vanNieuwkerk? Thank you. It's going to be a long night, guys. Barely. Can we turn the volume up a little bit? Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, please tell me that was a joke. All right, so moving on. Comedy hour was over. We have item 6A. One public hearing on the agenda tonight for Bylaw 938-19, our complete community, our municipal development plan. Everybody say yay. Okay, so the public hearing is open, and the hearing is being held pursuant to sections 23606 and 692 of the Municipal Government Act as amended. Legislative services.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to members of the public and council. The purpose of Bylaw 938-19 is to adopt the Municipal Development Plan, Our Complete Community. The public hearing notice was advertised in a local newspaper on March 15th and March 22nd, 2019. The public hearing notice was published on Beaumont's website on March 15th, 2019. Any written submissions received are included in the agenda package, and there is currently nothing to read into the record at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is written, Mr. Wong.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of council and the public. So we're here after a 2.5-year process to update Beaumont's municipal development plan to replace our existing municipal development plan. Our last MDP was created in 1998, and since then, Beaumont has changed tremendously. We've had a lot of different population growth. We've annexed 21 quarter sections of land. There's been new regional growth plans, new legislation, new best practices. So we have created our complete community with the public, with our residents, with stakeholders to respond to all those different changes and best practices. So we have prepared, I guess, a slight PowerPoint for you tonight, but also we have a video. So we'll play the video first. Ms. Winters, if you could hit play, please. So this video we used this at our last public engagement open house that we held on March 13th at Kendra Raymond Regional Recreation Center. We held that there to talk with the public and to provide them with an update on what we've been doing since they last saw the plan. We didn't have a lot of turnout come through. We did have a lot of people that weren't local to Beaumont. Were really excited in the plan. We ran them through it, so they seemed to really like it. Those residents that we did talk to were also in favor, and we did answer a lot of questions. We did have a couple of members of the public who came out to talk to us. They were people that have actually had some changes happen since the last time the plan had come through. So some of our northern landowners, we were able to talk to them about the changes that we've made that primarily affect them with their future growth area. And we had this video playing, so it talks about what an MDP is, how it describes the future land uses and the vision for the community and the process that went through. So it's up on our website, I believe, as well. So you can view it there, and it's a really good intro into what a municipal development plan is. It's kind of a neat little with that, kind of describes what the elements of a complete community are, talking about having transportation and places to live and work that are within, work and play, thank you, that are really within close proximity to where people are, and having all those things within our local community and how important that is. So, almost done, sorry, jumping like that. So with that, this is the engagement timeline. It just goes through what we've done since the project was incorporated. We launched it in March of 2016. We took it to we went out to a variety of public engagement events, community breakfasts, all sorts of different events. We had several community vision workshops, both with residents that were within our boundaries at the time, but then also within our proposed annexation lands, because the annexation hadn't gone through yet. We had a photo contest. Those photos are in our municipal development plan. The cover, variety of different photos through here are used, and they were representative of that photo. Words are escaping me today. I'm really sorry. I'm just so excited. So this is our community built vision. So this vision we workshopped with the community. It really was a result of that public engagement that we went through, and we're very proud of it. It was a play on what the vision was at the time, and it talks about all these really great things that we want Beaumont to be in the next 25 years, and that we're this vibrant, family-oriented community, and we nurture business, and we promote excellence, and we're environmentally conscious, and we celebrate our Indigenous, agricultural, and French heritage. The MDP has 7 different theme areas, which talk about, how the community is going to grow, what sort of services it's going to look like. It talks about protecting our environment and having natural areas and urban forests and having great access for transportation and getting our goods to market and getting us to an 80-20 non-residential to residential assessment split so that we can be a sustainable community. And all these different policies are going to be implemented through our various master plans and the land use bylaw that will be upcoming here. So the Healthy Vibrant Community really talks about what it means to live in Beaumont. And we're talking about the essence of Beaumont. Arts, culture, and heritage, and placemaking, and really making a great community, and what makes a great community. And that all of that is found within this theme area. Then we've got responsible development, and it's how we're going to develop our new neighborhoods and how we're going to go through our existing neighborhoods. It talks about making Beaumont attractive and what it means to make Beaumont attractive, and the design for all of our different character areas, but what are those considerations that need to be made in there? Then we've got the economic strength, as we talked about, really getting to an 80-20 assessment split is very important for a sustainable community, and it's a huge priority of council, moving from a 95-5 assessment split, and we were looking at policies to encourage and show businesses that we were a great place to invest in, and this is where you really wanted to develop in the Edmonton region. So effective movement of people and goods was talking about having that transportation system that's great for not only automobiles, but also for people and pedestrians, and how we're going to balance that moving forward. Then we have environmental stewardship, because you've got to, I think, really take care of your environment to have a great community. We're talking about clean water and biodiversity and ecological connectivity as we develop into our annexation lands, and that we can have all these wildlife and stuff like that that can move from one area to the next and get down into the river valley, or that we're going to preserve our green spaces and our trees and contribute to the development of our urban forest. But that we're also going to be looking at education and stewardship initiatives as well with our community user groups. So we've got safety and emergency management, because we need to respond safely to emergencies as they occur. It also talks about some of that access design standards as well, that, everything needs to have appropriate access for fire management and emergency services, and that we're able to be a resilient community in the case of natural disasters or anything that might happen, and that we can recover. Working together, this is the one where we spent the most amount of time in the past year working on this. Fostering positive relationships with our neighboring municipalities and our regional partners. We have spent a considerable amount of time working with the City of Edmonton and Leduc County to come up with a solution that we think works for everybody as we look at our annexation lands, and working through something we're calling the Intermunicipal Planning Framework Agreement, which is a cumbersome mouthful, but it is this agreement where we're going to be looking at effective and efficient cost-sharing servicing, essentially. So what we're looking at there is making sure that you can have seamless regional planning in those areas, that it all works together in the way that it needs to, in the way that meets all of the needs of the residents in the area. Land use concept map, as I mentioned, what we were really looking at was this area that's hatched up here. So the yellow is our residential areas, dark yellow is future residential, so that's all of our areas that didn't have plans or that aren't built up yet. They're not currently being developed. So you'll notice that the Lakeview quarter section down here in southeast Beaumont, that was our last remaining greenfield quarter section within our pre-2017 boundary. That is shown in the dark yellow here because nothing is currently being done to move that to urban style development. We have the commercial is all in red, and that is more of a large format commercial, not your neighborhood commercial, but it might be gas stations, grocery stores. It could be Home Depot, it could be lumber yards, it could be a variety of different things which will help support that. It could be a movie theater, could be lots. So we've got the business park, which is purple, the light purple, and then the dark purple is light industrial. So really the differentiator there is that we're looking for campus style development on the business park. So something more along the lines of Summerside, 91st, that's kind of what we're envisioning that would look like on the business park. And then the industrial might have some limited outdoor storage. So those are really the differentiators. We're not looking for laydown yards. We're looking for ways that we can complement NISCU and the airport, and maybe we have logistics or we have value-added agriculture businesses that locate here that'll help support regional agriculture. We might be looking at hemp processing or different things like that in those areas. The commercial employment center are nodes, they're mixed-use nodes that have residential and employment that will be integrated onto that site. And then we have the Centreville area, and then we've got private recreation for the golf course and the Beaumont District Agricultural Society, and the parks and open space. And those are really the biggest things. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Wong to talk about what happened since we brought this plan for, I guess, second reading in 2017.
Yeah, what happened after September 2017? That was the time when the newly formed Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board not approving our MDP at the time under the regional evaluation framework. So we sent it back to the administration and for us to take another look and another work on it. And as a result of that, it is tonight to go through the final approval process. So what happened during that time? That was the new modernized Municipal Government Act that was enacted by the government of Alberta. And this new MGA emphasized a lot on the collaborative spirit, working together, not only with municipalities, but a lot of community groups, for example, school boards and everybody. So, and that is why you see this new MDP emphasize on the working together section of the plan. So working collaboratively is key. And also at the same time, because of the new MGA, they enacted the new Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board. They repealed the Edmonton Capital Region Board. So they have a new growth plan. So this new MDP has to comply with the regional growth plan that was approved in October 2017. And also the biggest biggest things happened during that time was the agreement between City of Edmonton, Ladue County, and ourselves on the Intermunicipal Planning Framework Agreement. And as Kendra, she's saying that this plan, we worked a lot on with the two municipalities, particularly on those newly annexed lands from 2017, and we are still working on it. The work will be probably done by the end of this year, but with the work being undertaking, there was no appeal, I can say, at the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board this time. So I think this is a bonus to us and a plus to us, and it is a very positive rendering, basically going forward with the two municipalities. How to do that, this one. Mm-hmm. And then during 2018, several events, it's the same thing. Basically, we regarding to the document itself, because of the modernized MGA, the new regional growth plan, we have to revise the policy statements to comply with those new documents. And also in 2018, the council approved the new Beaumont strategic plan, and there were the 7 pillars. So we have to replace that and make sure the new MTP aligns with the new strategic plan that council approved last year. So this was the timeline for what happened during 2018 and 19. So January the 8th, we got first reading, and shortly after that, on January the 10th, we submitted the plan to the Edmonton Regional Board for the Regional Development Framework approval. So March 11th, a couple of weeks ago, we received the final approval from the board, and then on the 13th, we had the open house at Canicos Recreation Center, and there were people coming, very, very positive feedback, and today we are bringing this for the final leg of the approval of the plan. So that concludes the presentation, and I would like to say probably a few words of thank you to the administrations, to the public on over the past 2 years contributing to this plan. It is a very good plan, and now after tonight it will be beginning the implementation of that. So I just want to make it on record to thank you, everybody.
Yes. Thank you to Council. So we recommend approval of second and third reading of the plan as it complies with all higher level plans and policies, including the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Growth Plan, and it sets an updated vision and direction for the future growth of Beaumont. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation tonight. And once again, on behalf of Council, thank you. There's been a tremendous body of work over a long period of time by a tremendous amount of people. And yeah, it's nice to see this coming to the finish line. So open it up to questions from members of Council. Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Worship. Through your Worship to Ms. Wong, Ms. Raymond, Mr. Wong. I have a process question that I'm going to try and frame as clearly as I can, and it may not be you who is able to provide the answer. But so hypothetically, tonight, we're doing the second and third readings. Council could stress the hypothetical part of this. Council could propose an amendment or a change to the plan as presented. But this has already been approved by the Edmonton Metropolitan Regional Board. So, as I understand it, from was that the March date, March the 11th? So, if that happened, where does that leave us? Does it have to go back for reapproval from the EM1B, or is there some wiggle room where they can say, yeah, we've approved it?
Through your Worship to Councillor Stewart, technical amendments or something that was really minor, a typographical edit that needed to be made or something else, we could do without needing to send that back through the regional evaluation framework. Anything that's major would be a departure probably from what was approved, and we would have to be double checking that.
So then who arbitrates what is major and what isn't?
who arbitrates that is we would make that decision. Administration would take a look at that and determine that from our professional experience. We would determine that if we needed additional help, we would approach the board. They are great help in helping you look through and seeing whether or not it's major or minor as well. Ultimately, that decision does rest with Beaumont as to whether or not we send that through. There isn't a police or an oversight or a watchdog that would look at that and say, you should have sent that. That would be on us to have determined if that was minor or major. And that's with any amendments to the bylaws, that would be a determination that we would make. And if we really needed to, we could also seek a legal opinion as well.
I'm sorry.
We could also seek a legal opinion as well, but there are different ways to double check that could be, if it was major or minor, if we were questioning. But typically, if you're going to change land uses, those are usually considered to be more of a major change. There are those sorts of things, major changes to policies if you're making a lot of those.
Okay, thank you. Can I ask another question?
Sure. Nobody else is.
I don't see anybody else's light on, so I'm going to just keep rolling until. The word that, so through your worship to the presenters, the word that caught my eye, or the sentence that caught my eye towards the end was, a rigorous public participation process was implemented during the plan development process. Could you just fill in the gaps for me? Well, not the gaps. Could you just elucidate, to speak to that? What constitutes a rigorous public participation process?
Through your worship to Councillor Stewart, a rigorous public engagement process is something that is comprehensive. It's very thorough. We went at it from a variety of different mediums and events and different techniques that we used that are done through the International Association of Public Participation. So we've done a variety of different techniques to reach as many people as we can, stakeholder consultation, interviews, letters, sounding boards. It's really more talking, I guess, about its comprehensiveness might have been maybe a better word than rigorous, but rigorous seems to be the word used for public engagement.
Well, okay, thank you. Appreciate your elucidation there. Thank you.
I think right now we're in the public hearing on the plan. So are you down in the RFD for decision? Where'd you find that? Yes. I'm sorry. You're early.
I jumped the gun again.
So we're still.
To ask that question.
I won't let you. We don't need to ask the question, but yeah, we are. Just a reminder, Council, we are in the. This is where you can ask questions about the plan. We can ask questions about the process when we get down to second reading and those things. Fair enough. Yeah. Any further questions on the plan? No. Councillor vanNieuwkerk.
No questions.
Thank you very much. All right. Thank you very much for your presentation tonight. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak in favor of the bylaw? Please come down, state your name and for the record. And yeah, please.
My name is Judy Trellenberg. And I'll try to keep this brief, and it will be brief. I just wanted to thank very much the administration for having worked so hard on getting this MDP to fruition. Given 10 years ago, it was like this is never going to happen, where neighbors will actually work with neighbors for the betterment of all. And when we were approached as residents of these newly annexed lands, we were not that sure that things were going to change. But right from day one, when the planning department met with us, we just went like, wow, this is the way it should be. This is how municipalities and communities are run. They're looking for engagement from everyone. There's a process to follow where every town and county around your lands needs to be involved so that you're spending the money once, you're spending it wisely because it's all taxpayers' money. And ever since we've had that meeting a few years ago, we know how much they've worked and they've kept us engaged. And if they've had questions, they've asked. And if we've had questions, the door's been open. There's been nothing that has been hidden. They've been transparent as much as they could be. And it just makes so many of us that had not such good experiences in the past looking forward to what all Beaumont can bring to Alberta now. You guys are in one of the best places to be with your proximity to the airport and all the businesses that are going on there, transportation, warehousing, whatever, with Leduc County, let alone Edmonton down the roadway. And it's nice that you've looked at it that Edmonton is not your enemy, is not your neighbor. I mean, is not your enemy. You have to work with your neighbor. And we've appreciated that because that's how people usually work. You work with your neighbors. You don't just try to make your own little world. And to see that you've overcome it and you've got such a comprehensive plan, it's really heartening. And as a resident just outside of Beaumont, I really appreciate all the hard work they've done and how supportive the council has been for them and whatever. So on that note, just thank you very much for all the hard work that these folks have done and yourselves for being so receptive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the comments. Is there anybody else in the audience wishing to speak in favor? Anybody wishing to speak in opposition to the bylaw? Any person deemed to be affected who wishes to be heard? Any concluding statements from admin? No? Public hearing is now closed. Okay, so which brings us back to request for decision. Bylaw 938-19, our complete municipal development plan for second and third reading. Ms. Raymond, Mr. Wong.
Just to add to the presentation is that the plan was circulated to affected agencies and neighboring municipalities in November, and there was no concern that was raised or received. And then we went out to the public again on March 13 after the approval received from the Edmonton Metropolitan Region Board, and and the public notice was advertised on newspaper March 15th and 22nd, and also it was posted on the website since March 15th. So in concluding that the plan complies with all higher level plans and the Beaumont strategic plan. So with that, the administration recommended support to second and third reading of the bylaw.
Thank you very much. Questions for administration? Councillor Montgomery, you. Oh, all right. If there's no questions, do I have a member of council willing to move second reading? Councillor Danlock.
So, Your Worship, thank you.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion. Comments. Councillor Montgomery.
Just a thank you, and thank you for the comments. We obviously don't hear those very often, positive things, which is great. But as a public participation practitioner in my other world, I just wanted to acknowledge the work that was done. Definitely set a high bar for everything going forward. But I got involved on the engagement side prior to taking a seat here at this office, and was impressed throughout the whole landscape of the engagement. So I just wanted to reiterate my thanks from the other hat that I wear. I was very impressed, and I think you'll see a lot of people copying the framework that you guys have put together for this. So thank you for that rigorous engagement. I will put a commendment for that word there. But excellent work. I'm fully supportive of this. Thanks for your patience going through it all. We got there in the end, and that's hard work. So thank you for that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you. So glad to see this is completed. It's been a long time coming, probably not that long. This probably takes this amount of time anyway, but it started in the previous council's time, and now it's continuing and finishing now. And I'm very pleased, very, very proud to have my name on it as well, and as a member of council during this time. I think it's a professional piece of work. I think it's something as Councillor Markov-Swain said, others will model after it. I think it does set the bar very high. It's modern, it's forward-thinking. I just have to particularly say I really like what we've said here about the sustainable development and the residential development parts around the affordable housing options and the direction that we're going. What I particularly like about this plan is looking into the future. It's making sure that our children and our grandchildren and future generations are going to want to be able to live here. And I think that's so, so important. And it speaks to all of the things that are near and dear to my heart. So I'm 100% behind it and hope that others will be as well. Thank you very much.
Councillor Vannieuwkerk.
Thank you, Worship. Echoing previous comments about the amount of work being done and how great this actually document really is. I'm amazed at the process, and I was very thrilled to be part of it towards the end of the overall process with our new council that took office of almost 15 or 16 months ago. This has been a huge project and a lot of great work done to it. And I mentioned it previously, I wish this had become almost mandatory reading for people of Beaumont to see exactly what's all been done. And as our guests mentioned, the process can ruffle some feathers, but then the process has to be appropriate and has to be reflective of the community, and this process was exactly that. So this is a fantastic document. It's not a short read, but it's a really good read. So I would encourage people in the listening audience to go to the Town of Beaumont website, check it out and read it. It tells you a lot about Beaumont and where we're going. So it's a fantastic document. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor vanNieuwkerk, any comments before I call the vote?
No comment. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no. Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Worship. Just a quick question. Is there any way to obtain a hard copy of this document?
Yeah, we can print it. You mean a nice printed one?
Yes, ink on paper.
Yes, we will have printed copies available.
I was thinking not just for myself, but
For the public.
Yeah, we will have some printed copies that we can make
following through
available.
Councillor Dunlap's comments, if people would prefer to read a hard copy, which is certainly my preference, I'd like to know that they're available. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. Seeing no further comments. Oops, too far. All in favor of second reading? Councillor vanNieuwkerk.
Yes, Jason.
Thank you. That carries unanimously. Is there a member of council prepared to move third reading? Councillor Barnhart.
Yes, so moved, Your Worship.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Worship. I'm just going to comment that ordinarily I'm not in favour of doing second and third readings of such a large, complex, wide-ranging, long-ranging bill. This goes all the way out, document. This goes all the way out, I think, to 2044. But extraordinarily, I recognise that no purpose will be served by me holding it up, or anybody else for that matter, and that it's already been delayed by the events that have been discussed, gone back and forth. And so consequently, yeah, extraordinarily, I will be voting in favour of it on this occasion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stout. Any further comments from council? All right. Call the vote on third reading. All in favor? Councillor vanNieuwkerk?
Yes, Jason.
And that carries unanimously. All right, we have no registered presentations this evening, which brings us to item 8A, terms of reference for the Recreation, Parks and Culture Advisory Committee. Mr. Frankton.
Thank you, Worship, through to your council. Tonight, we're going to be looking at the Recreation, Parks, Culture Advisory Committee approval. Administration is coming forward with 3 recommendations tonight. Number 1, that council approves the establishment of a Recreation, Parks and Culture Advisory Committee. Number 2, that the council approves the Recreation, Parks and Culture Advisory Committee terms of reference, and you'll see it as attachment 1 in your package. And 3, that Council appoint Councillor Daniluk as Council Representative and Mayor Stewart as alternative to the Recreation, Parks and Culture Advisory Committee. As we go through the background, both Council administration and the public have identified needs to establish a committee that can formally bring community input to Council and administration regarding recreation, parks and culture. Elected officials and administration have been informally attending the Beaumont Sport and Recreation Association, the BSRA, meetings to hear the voice of the community on matters that pertain to sport and recreation. In 2018, administration and the chair of the BSRA started talking about options related to a formal approach that would meet the needs of both the city and the community. Beaumont is also engaged Expedition Management Consulting Limited to establish a 10-year recreation parks and facilities master plan, Our Place and Play, that provides analytic data, priorities, and recommendations to set framework for the future. The advisory committee paired with the master plan would provide a solid platform moving forward. Council and Committee of the Whole have received updates regarding the information of the Recreation, Parks and Culture Advisory Committee 5 times since the April 10th, 2018 regular meeting of Council. The BSRA is an ad hoc committee made up of recreation and sport volunteers. The association has been meeting since 2015 to discuss issues and opportunities around sport and recreation facilities, programs, and user groups in Beaumont. They have communicated the need to have an advisory committee to Council that would focus on communication and collaboration with Beaumont Sports and Recreation. Administration agrees and is recommending the establishment of a Recreation, Parks and Culture Advisory Committee to positively affect change in Beaumont for Council's consideration tonight. This is based on review of other communities who have these types of committees and what works and what hasn't worked for them. What we heard from other communities is that the committee needs to have a strong purpose, a reason to meet, set up to influence positive change, act as a sounding board on operational issues, and not just be set up as a complete session or a lobbying group. Further, the committee should be established to represent the whole community. This is also substantiated with staff's own experience on these types of committees and best practices. The attached terms of reference, once again attachment 1, has been built around these principles and includes the following highlights. The committee acts in an advisory capacity to City Council on major matters relating to parks, recreation, and culture programs and services. Appointing 1 voting member, council member, and 1 council alternative. 6 additional voting members at large, 1 being youth. And up to 6 meetings per year with the opportunity to hold more. And finally, the meeting follows procedures and process. Tonight we have 5 options and alternatives around the committee formation. As we talked about in the recommendation, the Council approves the establishment of Recreation, Parks and Culture Advisory Committee. Number 2, the Council approves the committee terms of reference. Number 3, the Council appoint Councillor Daniluk as Council Representative and Mayor Stewart as alternative. Alternative 4, the Council provides direction to administration on how to proceed. And alternative 5, the Council recommend not proceeding with Recreation, Parks and Culture Advisory Committee. This has strategic alignment with the 2017 to 2021 Our Beaumont Municipal Strategic Plan Livability. Currently, the relevant statutes, master plans, and documents that it follows is the forthcoming Recreation, Parks and Facilities Master Plan, Our Places in Play, the forthcoming Social Master Plan, Our Inclusivity, and the City of Beaumont Policies and Procedures for Citizen Boards and Committees. It also follows the MGA Act, Section 3B, 145 and 146. Stakeholder engagement to this point, we have met, administration has met twice, including additional phone conversation and emails with the chair of the Beaumont Sport and Recreation Association to discuss committee structure and what we heard from other communities, best practices and personal experiences. The association chair was in agreement with moving forward tonight. The chair of the Beaumont Sport and Rec Association has reviewed the Recreation, Parks and Culture Advisory Committee terms of reference and has given endorsement on behalf of the BSRA. All appointments would be publicly advertised and would follow the committee application and appointment process. Further, committee agendas and topics of community interest would be publicly advertised through media channels. With regards to budget, there will be no impact at this time. Once established, the advisory committee could impact operating budget depending on structure of the committees. This may also include the need for additional staff resources to manage various established committees. These will be discussed further in budget deliberations this year. And once again, for Council's review is the attachment 1, which is the terms of reference for the Recreation, Parks and Cultural Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation this evening. I know this was one of the items that Council was really keen on having was this advisory committee. So happy to see that here this evening. Are there questions from members of Council? Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you very much for bringing this forward. One comment question. I understand there's one youth being recommended, one position for a youth, and that would be over 18, or can you give me a little more information about how we would define youth in this instance?
Yes, yes, Your Worship, through to Councillor Barnhart. Right now, within the terms, we don't have youth defined. We would see it as a person that is under the age of 18.
So maybe more clarification on that. But my point really is being one person representing a whole group, a whole demographic is tough on that person, just from my own experience in working with boards and committees. So I'm just wondering if was there any talk about perhaps maybe at least one youth, but leaving the door open for maybe 2, because I think it could be a little more enticing to someone to be on the board if they were the only one that was under the age of 18.
Yes, through Your Worship to Councillor Barnhart. We had looked at 19 other municipalities through our study of to create the terms of reference. And what we saw from the examples that came back was that it was just one member, but it doesn't mean that we can't look at options around that.
Well, when we get to response option 2, if we get through approving the establishment of the committee, when we get to approving the terms of reference, if you wish to make amendments, we'll make them there. Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, and again, thank you for bringing this forward. It's something we've been looking forward to for a while. Question around the number 7. So I would imagine, I appreciate some of the other committees that we have struggle with membership. I would say this one won't. And it sounds like you've done a review of these other best practices and that sort of thing. So why do we land on 7 as the number?
Through your review and experiences, number 7 just seems to be a big size and critical size as we start off this committee. As the committee evolves and develops, we might have membership in terms of that point, but to start with a committee, it's very small and grow its participation as we
Can I follow up if you don't mind?
Go ahead.
So let's say we get 7, and I'm sure there'll be more than 7 applying. Mm-hmm. Are these meetings? Is that a closed meeting process? Like, are they open to the public? You said you're kind of advertising the topics, but if the 7 people are meeting in here, are there opportunities for other members to come in and listen to the conversation? Obviously, not participate, but can they listen to this process?
Yes. Through your work. There definitely would be the opportunity for groups that would be affected by any decision points to attend these committee meetings and to get involved as well as we bring recommendations back through to council.
Okay, thank you. And I guess where I'm going, so I've got no concerns with it in here. I'm just trying to picture myself in the, and I appreciate how you've got in here. This isn't the place to lobby for your own particular sport. That's very important. But naturally, there are going to be opportunities where, depending on decisions that are made, it's going to impact some group over the other. So, and maybe I should be more familiar with this, but would there be an opportunity for this committee? So like here, we're a council, and if you want to come in and speak to us, you can present and that sort of thing. So are those options available to the public or a particular group that would want to participate in the process? Could they come and speak to the committee, for lack of a better term?
Yes, through your worship to Councillor Swain, there would be agendas formed. So yes, groups could call to be put on the agenda and then meet with the committee to discuss any specific issues that they may have.
Okay, thank you. It's good.
Any further questions from members of council? Is there a member of council willing to move that council approve the establishment of the Recreation, Parks and Culture Advisory Committee? Councillor Moncaswain.
I'll move that recommendation.
Thank you very much. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Barnhart.
Your worship, if it's the appropriate timing, I'd like to suggest an addition of the word "at least one member" being used.
Okay, that will. Terms of reference is next.
Oh, I'm jumping the gun.
Yeah,
we're just so anxious here.
We're just going to
Okay.
approve. We're going to approve to establish the committee, and then we'll work on the terms of reference second. Councillor Danlock.
Thank you, Your Worship. First of all, I want to thank this council for giving me the opportunity to serve this committee. I think it's a hugely important committee. It goes to our mandate to be, in my opinion, open and honest and transparent with the residents, give people a chance to come and talk to us. And I think recreation is hugely important to our community. We're building our new recreation center. It's up and running, and it's not running yet, sorry, but it's up and being constructed nicely. And it's on schedule, which is great. And I think we have to talk about the future of our community. The previous presentation talked about 41,000 people by 2047 or something it was. And that's going to require more recreation facilities. So this committee will be hugely responsible to give us direction as future councils to make sure we do proper planning for the future. I'm really thrilled to be part of this process. So thank you for the chance to serve in this committee. Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion to establish the committee? Seeing none. All in favor? Oops. Come on. All in favor? Councillor vanNieuwkerk. Thank you. That passes unanimously. Is there a member of council willing to move that council approve the committee terms of reference? Councillor Moncaswain.
I'll move that second recommendation.
Thank you. Councillor Barnhart.
Before I even have the button. Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to suggest an amendment to its 4A, where it speaks to the committee shall consist of 7 voting members composed of member of City Council. In Roman numeral 2, up to 6 members at large, with at least 1 member being a youth, which leaves the door open for if more youth apply and potentially they're the representative of the community, then we would include them.
We need a vote on that amendment, right?
Yeah.
By process? Yeah. There you go. So if we're happy to take it friendly, is there any discussion on the motion as amended? No. All in favor? Councillor vanNieuwkerk. Thank you very much. That carries unanimously. Is there a member of council willing to move response option 3, that council appoint Councillor Danlock as a council representative and Mayor Stewart as the alternative to the Recreation, Parks and Cultural Advisory Committee? Councillor Moncaswain.
It's an absolute privilege to move that motion to appoint Councillor Danluck as our council representative and Mayor Stewart as an alternate to the Recreation, Parks, Culture and Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Councillor Montcalm-Swain. Discussion on the motion. All right, seeing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor? Councillor vanNieuwkerk. Thank you very much, and that carries unanimously. I hear Councillor Frankton. Which brings us to item 8B, automated traffic enforcement. Mr. Hilts, Mr. You too.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of Council, it's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. Just before we begin, we did ask Staff Sergeant Jeff Egan to join us here this evening. Unfortunately, he's dealing with a family matter this evening, but he does send his regrets and such. So before you this evening, members of Council, administration is here with 3 recommendations with respect to the City of Beaumont photo radar program. Number 1, the Council approved an extension to Global Traffic's existing contract through to December 31st, 2019. Number 2, that Council direct administration to conduct public engagement on traffic safety and the use of automated traffic enforcement in Beaumont. And 3rd, that Council direct administration to bring back a traffic enforcement plan to Council, a Council meeting by August 2019. And the purpose of the plan would include, number 1, Beaumont's automated traffic enforcement technology guidelines based on the Ministry of Justice and Solicitor General's requirements and the Traffic Safety Act. Number 2, proposed zones that would be included for consideration for automated traffic enforcement. And 3, areas that would not be given consideration for automated traffic enforcement in the City of Beaumont. A little bit of background and just a high-level overview. Number 1, the provincial automated traffic enforcement guidelines, as Council is aware, are governed by the province of Alberta, and more specifically the Solicitor General's office. As Council is aware, the province has conducted an external review of the automated traffic enforcement program, which was released in February of this year, bringing forward recommendations and changes. And your administration before you this evening is confident that we meet the recommendations, or we will meet them by the target dates identified by the province. Our program focuses on zones that have the potential of the highest risks to our residents and our motoring public. Over the past years, we've detailed to Council that our Beaumont's automated traffic enforcement statistics have shown a 45% reduction in the total number of speeding tickets issued. That was through the use of photo radar. And that we also have seen a slight decrease in the number of stop or red light tickets issued, however, an increase of 72% in stop sign violation tickets issued as well. Administration provided Council a review of 3 various studies that were done within the province. There is limited Canadian research out that we were able to find. However, the City of Edmonton, the City of Grand Prairie, and the City of Medicine Hat have all released their findings of their own internal reviews, all of which can be summarized by a reduction in overall speeds, which of course, slower speeds equal reduced impacts to drivers and occupants of vehicles should they be in a motor vehicle collision. On December 12, 2018, for a period of 1 week, the administration did administer or put out in the community 24 automated data counters deployed throughout Beaumont to monitor the effectiveness of existing photo radar locations and, of course, to identify new potential at-risk areas. This report was provided to Council on February 6, and again, it is Council's or administration's intent to go back into the community on these same spots later on here this spring, by June, to reconfirm the findings of those counters as we found in the earlier deployment in December. Steps moving forward, and based on the recommendations provided to Council, we are looking at a plan going forward that by the end of March 2019, we extend the contract with Global by up to 6 months to the end of this year, to allow to allow administration to educate and engage the public and motorists on automated traffic enforcement in Beaumont. It would allow us to update the traffic safety plan, and this will give council, administration, the RCMP the opportunity to openly discuss traffic safety in Beaumont, and of course align our traffic enforcement to the desired outcomes. Four, it would also allow us to open up the procurement for a new automated traffic enforcement contract provider, and if necessary by the fall, update our council policy should it be required on photo radar. If we do extend, or if approved by council, and the choice is to extend our existing contract with Global Safety or Global Traffic, we would not be looking at changing any of the terms of the existing contract, which was 3 years with an option to extend for 3 years, which the City of Beaumont did. Our hours are based on 40 hours per month, 32 hours in speed and 8 hours in stop infractions. There is a sunset clause or termination clause of 180 days, and the collection formula is 24% of the fines collected are retained by the City of Beaumont. And finally, administration is looking to conduct public engagement, and I'm very happy to say that I actually have the data collection agreement with me here this evening that would allow administration to move forward with launching our interactive web-based map for residents, which would highlight data collected from our photo radar program, much like our RCMP crime mapping. And in addition to, we'll be launching our Q&A program, which will be provided in an effort to address any concerns that residents may have with regards to photo radar or automated traffic enforcement. The anticipated rollout of this initiative is early March. However, it would be a little bit later into spring based on council's direction. With that, I'm open to any questions council may have.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate the amount of work that's gone into this based on the discussion that we had the last time this matter was before us. I do have one question before I open up to members of council. Is there going to be an opportunity for council to have a bit of a discussion surrounding this as part of this process before the traffic plan comes back for approval?
Your worship and members of the council, what we anticipate is we'd be going out and doing a fairly, we'd involve the community in a public engagement process through surveys, through public meetings, etc., plus the interaction that is going on the website. We'd also be bringing the traffic safety plan to a committee of the whole, which would be that discussion piece with council on around those areas where council would be able to provide input into those specific targets that are outlined in the report. Then after that information is there, you'd be receiving another report on approving the safety plan and then making your final determination on the future of photo radar in Beaumont.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from other members of council? Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, Your Worship. This looks good to me. I did have a question about the engaging the public piece. So what exactly are you going to be engaging them on?
Through Your Worship and members of council, we're going to be asking some fairly we'll be asking general questions around the use for traffic safety and the use of photo radar. And we'll also be asking some fairly direct questions about the use of photo radar and stop and man stops and stuff like that. So it's going to cover it's going to be fairly, I guess, general in terms of the deployment of photo radar. Plus, we'll also look at officer being involved in stops as well. So we'd try to get as pretty much a broad-based perspective from the public as possible.
Okay, thank you. Follow up if you don't mind. Sure. The reason I ask is, obviously, if you're going to ask a question, you better be prepared to do something with the answers that you're going to get. And I appreciate the note in here that the commanding officer is the one who ultimately approves it. So, what's the process for? We collect all this feedback. Right, and I think residents want to know that if they're going to provide feedback on this, how is that going to be incorporated into, I guess, the final decision-making process with the commanding officer?
Yeah. So through Your Worship and members of the council, what would happen with that data is that it as always will be available for public review on the website, but that will also form part of that discussion that would take place at a committee of the whole on the traffic safety plan. So you'd get that as part of that report, and that would be part of that discussion that's framed to provide, I guess, a direction before a final decision is made.
Thank you. I think that's an important detail that to note that, you know, we're going to go in and ask them, and you've highlighted it here, but I think important, well, any of our engagement events, we acknowledge, you know, the final decision on this. So this looks really good to me. Thank you for all the work to get here.
Thank you very much. Councillor Danlock.
Thank you, Worship. Guys, great work as always. So thank you for this report. Two quick questions. I know we advertise weekly where the photo radar sites are going to be located within our municipality. How many other municipalities also advertise versus those that don't? I thought we had, if we touched about this before, I can't remember what the answer was, but you know offhand, how many other municipalities actually advertise like we do versus those that don't advertise who have photo radar in their municipality?
To Councillor Danilek, through your worship, it is a requirement of the photo radar or automated traffic enforcement program that all municipalities do provide or
to advertise
where their locations are. Yes.
Okay, sorry. I thought a previous discussion had mentioned that some don't and we do. I thought, well, we do, and people still speed, including myself sometimes. But okay, so that it's a requirement to actually advertise it.
So
I misunderstood a previous discussion.
Through your worship, and to members of council, what they've cleared up in the new guidelines. Prior to, they said a municipality must advertise. So they could put up a poster in City Hall, they could put it on their website, they could put it in the newspaper, they could do whatever. Now, with the new guidelines, they've said it must be posted on your website and probably in the newspaper as well. So they've defined that more.
Okay, thank you. And the second question, please, if you don't mind. I know we're looking at extending the contract with Global Traffic to December 31st of 2019, and the procurement process will happen in the fall. So just to clarify, people listening at home and for the record, that should we choose a new provider, we'd have to again give them 180 days notice, sunset clause. So it would be until June 30th, 2020. We'd be stuck with Global. If we change carrier, can we change them on January 1? If we choose a new carrier based on procurement.
Yeah, so your worship, members of council, what would happen with the extension of the contract and Global making that determination in April of this year if they're going to move that way? But that will be it. Like basically that extension would be their 6 months notice.
Okay.
And so we would not have to delay the procurement any further than December 31st of 2019 if they sign on. Yes.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. I just assumed a sunset clause would be triggered again on Jan 1 if the new provider was due. This gives more flexibility. Thank you for that.
Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Worship. Through your Worship to Chief Cooke and Mr. Hilts. Just a couple of clarifying points on the response options and alternatives we've got in front of us this evening. I'm assuming that we're not going to do all 6 of these because aren't some of them mutually exclusive? But that's not really my question. Let's go to number 2. Council direct administration to conduct public engagement on traffic safety and the use of automated traffic enforcement in Beaumont. So is that public engagement on traffic safety and the use of a public engagement on the use of automated traffic enforcement, or is that a public engagement on automated traffic enforcement? Traffic safety in Beaumont.
So thank you, Your Worship and members of council. The public engagement would be on both traffic safety and the use of traffic.
So one public engagement on both topics?
On both topics.
Okay, it's just not entirely clear to me the way it reads. And secondly, then the third, if I can continue, the third item, the purpose of the plan includes, and then we've got items 4, 5, and 6. I'm wondering what happened to 1, 2, and 3, and if perhaps the plan includes some other items.
Which
am I looking at an old version? This was the one. No,
please. Just the Roman numerals outlining Beaumont's 3, 4. 3.4.
Yes. So basically, thank you, Your Worship, members of council. So we're only bringing forward the 3 options for your consideration tonight, as the recommendations outlined on the first page of the report. The other ones are there for discussion purposes if council wants to go down that path tonight.
So one's the
Yeah. Yes. So if you look at the recommendations on page 145 to 229 of the first page of the report. So right up there, it's on the screen. Your worship is that.
Okay, never mind. I got it now.
Yes. So we're asking for recommendation 1, the council approve the extension. Number 2, the council direct administration to conduct public engagement. Number 3, the council directs to bring back a traffic safety plan. And those three little bullets are just basically part of that recommendation number 3.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I see what's happened now. I think that numbering has continued on onto the second iteration of that item.
Oh, I see. Yes, I see. Yes,
it's essentially a typo.
Yes. Unfortunately, that happens sometimes in Word.
It's a word-induced typo. Yes. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So that's and that also answers my first non-question, which was which of the 6 options below are we actually going to be bringing forward? Thank you. So so item 3 then, the purpose of the plan includes all sentences 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
Points 1, 2, and 3.
Yes.
And does it include anything else? Is that including but not limited to?
Your worship and members of council, those are the 3 large, large themes that what council can have input into the traffic safety plan. So those are basically, you guys can have discussions and help with setting zones with the traffic enforcement technology guidelines, proposed zones, that's what we just talked about, and areas of not begin consideration. So you guys will be able to talk about areas that we would not consider as a traffic safety plan. Those are those areas that you guys would be able to.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the clarification. I understand now.
Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to the administration as well. Just there's a theme here, and going back to the engagement as well, and asking for the question there. Is the intention to consult with the community about traffic safety, or is it to consult with them on the development of the plan? I'm really not clear on the purpose of that engagement.
So through your worship, members of council, it is that we would conduct public engagement on both traffic safety and the use of traffic enforcement, automated traffic enforcement in Beaumont. So it's both.
My question is it education about those things? Or are we asking them, do they like it? Because I really worry about the polarization that's going to occur with that. So I'm just wondering, can we be as clear as possible, given our earlier conversations around communication and the purpose of consultation? What are people consulting for? Why are we consulting with them? To find out how many people like photo radar? You're not going to find too many people say they like it. But in terms of, is this the only part of traffic safety we're considering? Or are we going to look at where the problems lie? I mean, it's a big, broad topic, and yes. I just think I'm a little bit confused about and concerned about how broad we make it in terms of the consultation.
Through your worship and members of council, as kind of stated earlier, is that we'd be looking at this from getting public feedback on exactly that question, the broad-based question of how do you think Beaumont should be conducting their traffic enforcement? That'd be one question. So basically, through a officer or through photo radar or both. Photo radar is just one of the tools you can use. There are numerous other tools that can be used. We'll be asking questions on those because that public engagement will help frame the conversations that will take place with the traffic safety plan. So we need to get that data so we'll be able to have that robust discussion.
Councillor Wong.
Yeah, I think what we're trying to clarify here is that we're not asking you to go and ask the public, should we continue with photo radar, right? I think what we're saying, council has voted here that we want to do some way of enforcement, and you're going to be engaging the public on what are some of those methods that they prefer, where should we go, that sort of thing, right? So
yes.
we're not asking that question is being decided here. Now, obviously, when it comes back in front of us, we can still always change it. I appreciate that, but I think where the clarification and where we're getting a little confused on is you could easily get down a whole rabbit hole if we're asking that are we doing this right? So I think part of the engagement needs to be phrased that this is a discussion that council did have a vote to get rid of photo radar in general. That was voted down.
Yes.
And so we want to continue with it. And how do we want to do that? I think that's the piece that we just need to make sure it's framed properly. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to make that point to back Councillor Montgomery up exactly that. We have already voted to continue with photo radar, and this is to put it in layman's terms, be how we're going to employ it as a tool. So yeah. Any further questions before we start on the motions? All right, so member of council prepared to move that council approve an extension to global traffic existing contract to December 31, 2019. Councillor Danluck.
So move, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor vanNieuwkerk. I know you had comments.
I think noting that we need to be report that most of what we are that to the extension of the contract that they give. I don't think we're unable to extend that the administration would get back council on that. Much more time would be that if certain people allow that requirement. So I would certainly actually scramble if it needs that they don't want people.
Councillor Barnard?
No, I was.
Oh, you quit? Okay. Councillor Stout? Wait.
Thank you, Worship.
Ms. Winters?
Oh.
No. Councillor Stout? You guys are killing me here.
Thank you, Worship.
Lights going on and off.
I'm not in favour of this, which I'm sure will surprise nobody here. I'm not persuaded, for the same reasons that we already discussed, I'm not persuaded that the studies cited are impartial, objective, or even statistically unimpeachable. I am persuaded that the best information we have is the most impartial, objective, and statistically sound is the study from the Alberta Department of Transport, which I'll remind everybody, the first statement in it is photo radar makes a small contribution to traffic safety in Alberta, but is generally not being used in a way that maximises traffic safety. So I'm not in favour of extending this contract in the manner described.
Fair enough. Any further discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none. All in favour? Yeah, wait for Councillor Danluck. Councillor vanNieuwkerk? That carries 5-1. Is there a member of council prepared to move recommendation number 2, the council direct administration to conduct public engagement on traffic safety and the use of automated traffic enforcement in Beaumont? Councillor Montgomery.
I'll make that motion.
Discussion on the motion. Councillor Barnard.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I'm wondering, given our previous conversation about the public engagement, if the wording of that motion was correct. Because what I did hear is that this public engagement is not necessarily about the one form of enforcement. It could be about multiple forms of enforcement. So that specifically says, and the use of automated traffic enforcement in Beaumont. So potentially I'm proposing we could change the wording to say public engagement on traffic safety to help inform the traffic enforcement plan, the development of the traffic enforcement plan, or something similar. But I'm just worried about it being specifically that wording says, and what do you think about automated traffic enforcement?
Your Worship.
Mr. Hilts?
Your Worship, members of council, where you could take out, if that was the desire of council, to take out the word automated, the use of traffic enforcement in Beaumont.
Friendly guy. You're a friendly guy. Yeah. Okay. So, any discussion on the motion as amended? No. Councillor vanNieuwkerk.
Yeah, I was not able to hear what the friendly amendment is. Can someone repeat that?
We removed the word automated. So it reads now that council direct administration to conduct public engagement on traffic safety and the use of traffic enforcement in Beaumont. So it encompasses all of traffic enforcement.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, call the vote. All in favor? That carries unanimously. And is there a member of council willing to move recommendation number 3, that council direct administration to bring back a traffic enforcement plan to a council meeting by August 2019? The purpose of the plan includes the following. 1, Beaumont automated traffic enforcement technology guidelines based on the Ministry of Justice and Solicitor General's requirements in the Traffic Act. 2, proposed zones that would be included for consideration for automated traffic enforcement. And 3, areas that would not be given consideration for automated traffic enforcement. Councillor Stout.
So moved, Your Worship.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? All right. Councillor vanNieuwkerk.
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to know that and give information for bringing that search on that. Specifically, we have number 2 that the votes on this will be sufficient. That is 3 days for the plan on the activities of that all the response and previous discussion as we have council here looked over and changed the involved in some of the activities that have some of the perspectives of which see the council and looking on the discussions of the management chamber. So thank you for having
Councillor Barnard.
Thank you, Your Worship. And in light of what we said earlier for number 2, I'm fine with this motion as is, because it says the plan includes. So I understand that to mean it's not only these things, that if there were other information about other technology or other means of enforcement, that could be included as well. So that's my understanding of the word includes.
Thank you. Councillor Swain.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a comment on that proposed zones piece. I think, I'm sure it will, but I just want to state it anyway. If the decision or the feedback from the public and council comes back with a very limited scope on where we want to go, I think it would be important for us to make sure we have all the information in front of us of what that actually means in terms of a potential contract down the road. And I appreciate you wouldn't have been able to go out and put the RFD in place, but my understanding is that if we limit it to such small scope, the return is obviously less and maybe less incentivized for a company to bid on this. So just I think it's great. I think you've heard direction from council that we're looking at for it to be used in school zones, playgrounds, that sort of thing. But just make sure if you could bring back some sort of analysis. I don't know how you're going to do it. I'll leave that to you about what that would mean if we did limit the scope of this so much so that we had that wider piece of information. Is that clear what I'm asking for? Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, call the vote. All in favor? Councillor vanNieuwkerk. Thank you very much. And that carries unanimously. And we're going to take a 5. Yeah. But it's fine. I'll let you. Yeah. Just right.
Welcome to TELUS Conferencing. To join the conference, enter your access code followed by... You are currently the only participant in this conference.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you should.
Hello. Hello.
Councillor vanNieuwkerk, you're only going to hear us when we talk through the mics.
Okay.
You sound great, buddy.
Perfect. Thank you.
How's the raccoons down there?
He's doing laps.
Okay, buddy, we're just taking 2 minutes. We'll be back on soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'll get it. Okay. All right, call the meeting back to order. Brings us to item 8C, a notice of motion made by Councillor vanNieuwkerk to amend bylaw 923-18, meeting procedures bylaw. Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you to members of council and the public. In accordance to the meeting procedurals bylaw, once a notice of motion is made, it will be placed on the next regular council meeting agenda, which the elected official who made it will be present to present. At the March 12, 2019 council meeting, Councillor vanNieuwkerk made the following notice of motion. The council direct administration to remove section 14 2D. Questions or presentations will not be accepted on agenda items before council at the same meeting. In bylaw 923-118 meeting procedures bylaw. At this time, administration is seeking further direction on how to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor vanNieuwkerk, do you wish to speak to this?
Yes, please. Thank you. Meeting procedure bylaw 923-18 is one that we had seen recently in chambers. We reviewed it and we went through it and we approved it and it moved forward. But what I believe we have is an instance here where we didn't quite get it right, but we didn't know that we didn't quite get it right until we were faced with an instance where a resident or business wants to come and speak to us on an agenda item that is on the agenda on the night they want to speak, and they are refused based on our current bylaw. For myself, I would like to be part of a council that is transparent and always willing to listen, and listening at that meeting is important to me, and that's why I've brought forward this section 14.2b to be removed from the bylaw and seeking support from fellow councillors to remove this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor vanNieuwkerk. So are you prepared to make that motion at this time?
Yes, please. I would make the motion that council direct administration to remove section 14.2d. Questions or presentations will not be accepted on agenda items before council at that same meeting. In bylaw 923-18, our meeting procedures bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just a little sidebar. We do have an agenda item further down that if council does approve this amendment, we can make that amendment tonight as well. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Moncasway.
Just thank you to Councillor vanNieuwkerk for bringing this forward. I'm fully supportive of this. Certainly, I missed it as well in the first iteration of it, so I want to thank you for bringing it forward, and I will be voting in favour of it.
Thank you. Councillor Stout.
Thank you, Worship. I'd like to ask a question, and it's probably of Councillor vanNieuwkerk. What is the problem that we're solving by changing this? Could you specifically address that, please, Councillor?
Councillor vanNieuwkerk.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. Councillor Stout, basically the issue we have right now is that if there's an agenda item on our agenda that we are going to speak to in an evening, and a resident or business wants to come and address council on that item in the open forum section, as in they register prior to noon on the day of the meeting. Currently, with this 2D in place, they are unable to speak to us on that item because of the bylaw.
Okay, thank you. I think I got all of that. The sound quality is not great.
So,
Ms. Winter?
What he's saying is, so we have business items here to approved the terms of reference for the Parks and Rec Committee, right? So this is the first time that the public has seen this. If they wanted to come in and speak to that and they had some objections or they had some positive things to say, the way the bylaw is currently written is they wouldn't be able to speak to that. Therefore, their voice wouldn't be able to be heard before we made that decision. So by removing that, they would then be able to participate in Section 4 open forum to speak before we get to that topic. So it's just making sure that on a council meeting any day, if someone sees it in the paper and they want to come and speak to council on it, that they're able to do that on that night.
Thank you. Further comment, Ms. Winter? Is that he hit 5 point? Good. Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship. To the administration, as to Ms. Winter, through Your Worship, can you maybe tell me the rationale why that was in there in the first place? Because I'm really not, I certainly agree with the intent that I understand Councillor vanNieuwkerk and others are saying. I think the public should be allowed to come and speak to us in any way. But I seem to be mixing up, and it could be past iterations of open forums and registered presentations and unregistered presentations. So can you give me a little bit of assurance around the intent of this particular clause?
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Councillor Barnhart. When administration was performing research with regards to this was a statement that was included in majority of municipalities that we had researched when doing the meeting procedures bylaw. Administration had discussed whether or not they should align with other municipalities, and we decided to move forward with aligning with other municipalities in having this statement included in the meeting procedures bylaw.
So, having said that, we can change it if we want. Yeah, so, further discussion on the motion? All right. Seeing none, all in favor? Councillor vanNieuwkerk?
In favor.
Councillor Monkoff-Swain? That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Brings us to item 8D, Bylaw 939-19, Grant Funding Advisory Committee update. Mr. Harris.
Thank you, Worship, Council, and the public. To date, we've only received 4 applications to be members of the committee. So at this time, we've put forward 2 recommendations, one to reduce the committee from 5 to 4 members, and the second one is to rescind the bylaw and just bring the recommendations to council for the grant funding, or bring the applications to council for approval. At this time, administration is recommending that council reduce the members to 5 or to 4 from 5.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harris. Would that be a permanent reduction or just temporary while we still look for another committee member?
Through your worship, it would be permanent.
Could we word this in such a way, because I'd like to still try and get maximum participation, could we, what are our options to just proceed with round 1 here with the 4 members and keep 5 spots?
Through your worship, we can leave the bylaw the way it is, and just proceed bringing it forward to council. But we won't be meeting the bylaw, so it's either rescind the bylaw or amend the bylaw. The bylaw is in place, so the bylaw calls for 5 to do the process.
Okay.
It's council's call.
Mr. Schwartz?
I'm going to try this on legislatively, and you know my track record with legislation, so watch foot inserted in mouth. If we leave the bylaw as is at 5 members, I believe we can then add a rider on there to temporarily accept at this time for the first year, the first term, 4 members. And then that will allow us to continue to go out and seek the 5th person. Now, I don't know if that wording's exact, and Mr. Harris, feel free to correct me. Then we have a bylaw that we're abiding by. It still says it will include 5 members. However, the first iteration will accept 4.
We just amend the bylaw to read up to 5?
Sure. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. Minimum of 4. Sure.
Through your worship, The preference would be a minimum of 3 so that there
Okay.
is a deciding vote. So
Okay.
it would be a minimum of 3 to a maximum of 5. Yeah, that would be the
Can we make that amendment?
Yes.
CEO?
That sounds like a great solution. Just a reminder to the public and to council that this group will be making a recommendation which comes to council for the final decision.
Thank you. So I'll make that motion that council. Sorry, the council amend the wording of bylaw 939-19 to read a minimum of 3 members to a maximum of 5. Discussion on the motion. See none, all in favor? Councillor vanNieuwkerk?
In favor.
That carries unanimously. Which brings us to item 9A, bylaw 94-19, 2019 supplementary assessment, second and third reading. Mr. Harris.
Through your worship to council and the public, at this time, administration is recommending that council give second and third reading to bylaw 940-19 to allow for the collection of supplementary assessments in 2019.
Thank you very much. Questions for Mr. Harris? Councillor Stewart.
Sorry, pressed the wrong button. Excuse me.
All right. Seeing no questions, is there a member of council prepared to move second reading? Councillor Stewart.
So moved, Your Worship.
Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Councillor vanNieuwkerk.
In favor.
That carries unanimously. Is there a member of council willing to move third reading? Councillor Danlock.
So moved, Your Worship. Thank you.
Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Councillor vanNieuwkerk.
In favor.
And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to item 9B, bylaw 953-19, meeting procedures amendments, first, second, and third reading. Ms. Winter.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to members of council and the public. Current bylaw states that changing dates or times of regular council meeting requires an amendment to a procedural bylaw. A review of the current bylaw has been conducted by administration, and administration is seeking support from council to amend and change the current council timing for the regular scheduled council meeting from 7 p.m. till 6 p.m. Other changes in the bylaw include changing the city, town to city. You'll see reflected in the red line changes. As well, there was a change with regards to in-camera sessions being changed as per the MGA to closed sessions. Those are the only current changes that administration is seeking direction on to amend the current bylaw. Should this be approved by council this evening, administration will start the process for conducting engagement to the public, ensuring that the public is aware of the changes. Thank you.
And can we amend the motion to also take into account the removal of section 42 or
Section 14.
14.2D?
Yes, Your Worship, that can be, we can move the first reading with amendments.
Thank you very much. Is a member of council willing to move first reading with the amendments as proposed? Councillor Stewart.
So moved, Your Worship.
Discussion on the motion? Councillor Montgomery.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is the right venue to ask it, but there's some discussion about potentially another meeting. How are we dealing with that?
Those priorities meetings are going to be called a special committee of the whole, and because they're sort of new, we will at the first of those meetings we will work out exactly what they are in terms of reference and bring it back. But for the time being, they will be special committee of the whole meetings.
Okay, but the intent is if they're successful and they work, then we would come back and amend this bylaw here.
That's the intention.
Thank you.
There's no point in trying to put structure on something we're still working out. Councillor Danlock.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a quick clarification on the motion. I believe you said section 14.2D, question of representation not accepted on agenda items before council at the same meeting. The rationale for that again, can you refresh my memory why the rationale is for that? I'm forgetting. I know we talked about it before. I'm forgetting why we did.
Yeah, we just did it in 8C, and that's so that people can come and speak to an agenda item on the same day.
Right, that's what I thought you meant. Thank you. I'm in favor of that. Thank you.
Councillor Barnhart?
Thank you, Your Worship. And item Roman number 25, the special council quarterly meetings. We're still having those, even though we're having these special.
Yes. Those will stay.
Committee of the whole, so those are staying as well. Okay, thank you.
They'll stay at this time, and we may until we change it. Further discussion on the motion. We'll have this all figured out by year 4. Councillor Stowe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Now I'm going to regret asking this question, but I'm compelled to ask it anyway. Is now the time to discuss whether we should just synchronise the council and committee of the whole meetings to all start at the same time of day so that they're all consistent, which I'm thinking would be 6 p.m.
Well, now's the time, but the reason that some of them are at 5 is because it's taking into account that some other council members have other things they want to do on Tuesday evenings. And so if we're going to synchronize, I'd say let's synchronize them all at 5. But right now, 6 o'clock is the for council meetings is the median that was discussed at the last meeting.
Yes.
And
yes, I'm not willing to cancel this and move with council meetings to 5.
Yeah. So there we go. Councillor Wong, comments?
So I appreciate you trying to cut them off at the pass, but I'll speak in support of what Councillor Stewart just mentioned. The 6 o'clock across the board consistent, I am in favour of. Yeah, I can't see why we won't be able to change it right now. Make an amendment to this bylaw. Yeah, well, I mean, open to the discussion. Huh?
Well, yeah, I'm not in favor of it. I'd rather keep the committee levels at 5 and council meetings at 6 because that provides a balance for people to meet their schedules. Okay.
Wow. Takes the amendments.
Yes. Moving COW meetings to 6 is not on. This is first reading. Yeah.
So can the motion not read?
So do we have a consensus on
Your Worship.
Councillor vanNieuwkerk.
Yeah, thank you. Not able to hear a bunch of the sidebar conversation there, but for myself, I would support the differential in the time. We would then have 2 meetings at 5 o'clock and 2 meetings at 6 o'clock in each month on Tuesdays, and it does provide some flexibility for council members. I know it would be easier to remember that they were all at 6, but having some start at 5 and some start at 6, I think provides a little bit of flexibility for us, and I would support the differential between the two. Thank you.
So that's 2 for and 2 against. Anybody else got an opinion? I'm sorry.
No, it's just fair.
It's not a hill to die on for me. I prefer.
No, for me. But I raised it simply in case
if it is for others,
there were strong opinions across the.
Yeah, if it's strongly, I'm not saying it's a hill to die on for you, but if it's strongly for you, then I'm good. I'm good with it. I
would prefer the differential. But. Councillor Danlick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm okay leaving the CW meetings at 5 as present. I think just erring on the side of caution. Councillor Hendricks is not here, unfortunately. He may have a concern with the time differential change for other commitments he may have, as you mentioned. Part of the rationale for 5 o'clock is other commitments other councillors have after that. I'm okay with just leaving council meetings at 6 right now and CW at 5 and if Councillor Hendricks, on his return from vacation, we can reopen this issue in the near future about COW starting at 6. But I prefer to leave it at 5 now until we all have a chance to have input, please. Thank you. That's how I would suggest leaving COW at 5 at the present time.
So we'll leave it and revisit. Just sort of the consensus I got into that. All right, so any further discussion on first reading? All right, seeing none, call the vote. All in favor? Councillor vanNieuwkerk.
In favor.
Can I get a member of council to move to second reading? Councillor Barnhart.
So moved, Your Worship.
Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Councillor vanNieuwkerk? Councillor Monkhouse.
In favor.
Thank you. Now, in order to proceed to third reading, we need a unanimous motion of council to proceed to third reading tonight. Can I move that council proceed to third reading on this bylaw? Discussion on the motion? All in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor Danlock.
Just one last comment, Your Worship. I heard the comments about, I realize, of course, when a council is not here, you sometimes can't vote for things you might want to vote for if you were in attendance. My comment regarding Hendricks not being here is that this would facilitate a very significant change in scheduling. I just want to have him have some input on this idea, which was just at a later time in COW, but that's why I made that idea before. I realize that if you're not here, you can't vote, but this is going to change a number of Tuesdays going forward for everybody, so I want to have him have a say in this, so I suggested that. That's all.
Yeah,
just a comment.
Which is fine, except that Councillor Hendricks did provide input into the 6 o'clock meeting time at the meeting where this was discussed, which necessitated this change. And so bringing forth we can take care of that, and we can always crack this bylaw again at another time. So, but if we don't do it tonight, that means not everything's stalled until third reading happens. So discussion on the motion. All right, all in favor? That Councillor vanNieuwkerk.
In favor.
That carries unanimously. Member of council prepared to move third reading. Councillor Barnhart.
So moved, Your Worship.
Discussion on the motion. All right, seeing none, all in favor? Councillor vanNieuwkerk.
In favor.
That carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, it brings us to item 10, Councillor Inquiries and Reports. Is there a member of council wishing to ask a question of admin? Councillor Barnhart.
Thank you, Your Worship. And to the administration, having recently attended the youth center dinner with council, I was really excited and anxious to come back and see what we can do to support the youth council further. One of the ideas discussed quite openly was the regular opportunities for the youth to provide input to council and feedback and insight on council's issues before council and issues we should be looking at. To this end, I know we've had a youth council in the past, and I don't see Mr. Hilts in the room, but I was wondering if he could give us an update on the existence of the youth council, where it's at, what council could do, if anything, to help kickstart, get it going again, and recommend any other mechanism if that is needed.
CEO.
Certainly, through Your Worship, Councillor Barnhart, it appears the excitement of that evening wasn't just on council's side, and that the youth have continued with that momentum. Both two staff people, Brody and Sarah, are in the process of coordinating that group into whether it's a youth council or I'm not sure if that's the right terminology, but that was the road they seemed to be going down that night. So they will set up those meetings, develop what that group looks like, and then bring that back to council and say, hey, is this what you're looking for? But yeah, the energy was through the roof that evening, and it continued. The next day, people were reaching out saying, how do we get this going? So staff are facilitating getting going.
Please.
Could you give some kind of sense of timeline on that? And I know it can be specific, but when do you think it would be back to council?
I was guessing in the next several weeks, but let me verify that, please. I don't want to put words into their mouth.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank them for me. I think that's a great pickup.
It's pretty exciting.
Councillor Stewart.
Thank you, Worship. Yes. I've been hearing numerous inquiries from residents about whether or not the swimming pool at the Aquafit Rec Centre is still open, and whether there are fitness classes going on, and where those might be if they're not in the fitness centre there. So there seems to be quite a widespread belief that the pool is closed for the duration of the rebuild, and that that fitness classes are no longer taking place. A misconception, I should add. Can you just quickly summarise what communications methods we're using to publicise the availability of the pool and fitness classes, and is there any way? Do we know, or can we think of any gaps in the communications that might enable us to reach some of the people whom we just don't seem to be connecting with? Because I hear this quite a lot.
Certainly, through your worship, to Councillor Stewart, thank you. I'll give you a little rundown on some of the public notification campaign that we've undertaken, and then a couple different things that we're going to do. So a lot has been done to get out to the public and notify them. We provide regular updates on our website. We have social media posts. We've had a couple people working at the pool that direct those questions. We created brochures, newspaper ads. We've got public posters. There's one up in Shoppers Drug Mart as we speak. To confirm, though, the pool is open for regular operations. We've moved, I believe, 48 of the 54 fitness classes have moved from the Sports and Recreation Centre to the CCBCC. So those are still up and running. We are about to post on our digital sign, pool is open during construction. So that was a new thing that came out of today. So thank you for that trigger. One of the things that would help us and probably help the public is if you're getting a number of those inquiries, to pass them along to us so we can figure out what demographic we're missing. So that's something, if there's a pattern, speaking to the right councillor, if you notice a pattern, please pass that along to us, because that'd be really helpful, because then we can recognize that, you know what, we're missing the seniors, we're missing the youth, we're missing this group, and we can target and go out. But yeah, we're open for business. I drove by there today and I could see how you could think that we were not. And so that's a very good question. Thank you.
No, I think that covers it. I realise I'm asking, this is a perennial conundrum of how do we get in touch with the people we're not getting in touch with, and I've experienced it directly myself with theatre work that I've done, when people come back to me afterwards and say, well, when was your show on again? Or when's it happening? And it's, well, it was 2 weeks ago. Well, I wish I'd known, I would have come. Well, we've racked our brains and spent a large budget advertising it as extensively as we can. So I understand that a lot of the difficulties, and I take the point on, yes, if I get more of those, I'm going to try and identify if there is any pattern, if there is any consistency, and certainly perhaps to refer people to the town.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. No,
Councillor Barnett, follow up.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Just to follow up on that, Schwartz. Would you also maybe include in that communication, if you can, what the fees are? So it's one thing to know it's open to go to the CCBCC,
sure.
But if you were a previous member and that's finished, I understand. So what would the fees be to go? Because I think that information as well, for those of us that used to go to the gym, I've kind of lost it in the recesses of my memory myself, so I appreciate that.
Okay, we can do that.
Any further questions have been from council? Is there any member of council missing to make a report this evening? Seeing none. CAO's updates.
Yes, just a couple very quick things. The ice has been removed from Ken Nickel. I know for all the hockey players and figure skaters, that's a really sad time, but for somebody who's just done with this winter, that's one of the best things I've heard all week, is that the ice is out. And it's like, before we know it, the ice will be going back in, and that's...
It's okay. Lacrosse and ball hockey are pumped.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, they like it too. Just a blinding flash of the obvious with the spring thaw. We've got a lot of standing water. We've got ice out there. We've got gravel from the winter. The sweepers are out today. We're going to continue to get at that standing water and clean the streets up. So people, if we can be patient with us, and we are seeing that, quite frankly. So we appreciate that. We've got a lot of snow this year. And spring is taking its time getting here, but we'll get it cleaned up in no time at all. A number of people talked about the MVP. I can't say it enough, though, and I've got it, it was mentioned earlier, got to congratulate the previous council for the work they did to get it to where it needed to go. Got to congratulate the current council for being persistent and for seeing that there were things we needed to do differently, and I'm speaking regionally, and we did them. You did them. Got to thank the community of Beaumont for sticking with this MVP. It's a fabulous document. People could have turned on it, could have gone a different direction, but they didn't. And you heard Ms. Trellenberg talk, and you can't say those words better. I want to thank the directly affected northern landowners who, again, took the time out of their days on several occasions to participate on the development of that document. And it comes down to, we talk about the new branding, and we talk about with spirit and what does that mean to different people, and it means a whole bunch of different things. This MVP, in my opinion, is an example of that. It took a lot of hard work. It took a lot of cooperation. It took a willingness to do things differently, which is taking risks, and sometimes those blow up in your face. But what it produced was an outstanding quality plan that is supported by the community. And that is in my mind, my definition of the day of when you talk about spirit and Beaumont. So outstanding job that affected a lot of people. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item number 12, correspondence. So item 12A, we received correspondence from the AUMA in relation to an initiative that's being sponsored by them and other urban municipality associations in Canada. They would like us to support becoming part of the Resource Communities of Canada Coalition. I'm hoping that members of the council will have an opportunity to read the letter and consider whether or not we should be part of that, because I'll be looking tonight to see if there's support to join that committee, and if so, I'd like to see a motion in response to that. So open for comments from members of council or somebody to make a motion that we approve the City of Beaumont supporting the Resource Communities of Canada Coalition. Comments from council. Councillor Montgomery.
Thank you, Worship. This is very near and dear to my heart when I wear my other hat. I think this is a great initiative from Mr. Marashida and co. I'd like us to, some of these things it looks good on paper and then we get it, and then the advocacy kind of just falls on the president, and then it kind of falls down. So I'd encourage those who are able to attend the spring leaders AUMA conference over the next couple of days to reach out to Mr. Marashida and others and talk more about this. But I'd like to see us ensure that the advocacy keeps up on this, and this isn't just another nice thing to put out there, and then the election year. Federally, obviously, this is what it's targeted at. That comes and goes, and then this coalition dies. So there's a lot of value in coalitions when they work, but nothing more frustrating than putting time and effort into them when they don't. But ultimately, I'm very supportive of this, and I'd be prepared to move that motion if the council agrees.
I'll accept the motion. I am supportive of it as well. Councillor Danlick.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also support the motion in front of us on this issue. I don't see anything, I see many good things about it. I don't see anything that would hurt us to be involved with this from a municipality perspective. So based on the assumption that it's going to be good for us, and I think it will be, I'll support the motion. Thank you.
Further,
Your Worship?
Councillor vanNieuwkerk.
Yeah, I did notice on the template that there's a place for sponsoring councillor on there. And maybe I suggest that we have yourself, the mayor, sponsor this, should it receive support from council. I'm in favor of the motion on the table. Thank you.
Fair enough. Although we're not going to do this as a notice motion, we're just going straight for a motion. So the template.
Fair enough, yeah.
Further discussion on the motion, and I'm okay to sponsor it if that's the way council wants to go. Further discussion? Seeing no further discussion on the motion, all in favor?
In favor?
And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Are there any notices of motion tonight? There are no closed sessions, therefore we are adjourned.